No one could have predicted how a simple parcel delivery would ignite a brutal chain of events, ultimately costing an innocent father everything and shattering a criminal empire from within. A white van, seemingly unremarkable, pulled up outside a quiet semi-detached house in West Derby. It was a mundane morning scene, yet what was about to unfold would send tremors through the underworld. One man, dressed as a courier, walked confidently towards the front door. 3 others, cloaked in balaclavas, moved silently behind him, their intentions far from ordinary. What happened next lasted mere minutes, a terrifying blur of violence and swift theft. A man was left bleeding profusely, his home ransacked, and a staggering £1 million worth of cocaine vanished without a trace. This wasn't just any residence, it was a carefully concealed stash house, a crucial depot for one of Merseyside's most ruthless crime syndicates, the Hayton firm. At its helm stood Vincent Coggins, a name whispered with fear, a man renowned for employing torture, blackmail, and orchestrated disappearances. Though the injured man inside remained silent, the streets themselves began to hum with the news. Someone, somewhere, knew precisely what had been taken, and more importantly, what it would cost to get it back. The initial robbery was a spark, but the fallout would engulf an innocent family when a name, mistakenly whispered, landed in the wrong ear, forcing a father to step forward with everything he had to offer. This is the story of a man who paid over £1.3 million to save his son from a murder he never ordered, and the criminal empire that greedily accepted the money, yet still demanded blood. The plan itself was meticulously simple. For men, their white van a perfect disguise, one posing as the unwitting delivery driver while the others, masked and armed with wicked blades, waited for their cue. For weeks, they had meticulously observed the unassuming house on Crockdale Road West in West Derby, learning its rhythms, its vulnerabilities. They knew what riches lay within, not human lives, but £1 million worth of illicit product. At precisely 9:30 a.m. on the 23rd of May, 2020, they made their move. The front door creaked open, answered by Paul Glenn and his son. In a sickening flash, machetes were drawn, and Glenn was brutally slashed, cut down to the bone. His son valiantly tried to fend off the intruders, but their numbers and ferocity proved overwhelming. Blood stained the hallway, a chilling testament to the speed and brutality of the assault. The house, intentionally devoid of any identifying signs or branding, was, for those in the know, a critical node in a vast network. Today, it was being emptied. The assailants swiftly loaded 30 kilograms of cocaine, its street value exceeding £1 million, into their waiting van before vanishing into the suburban morning. What they couldn't have comprehended was that this wasn't merely a random drop point. This house belonged to the Hayton firm, a Merseyside cartel meticulously built over decades by the infamous Coggins brothers, Vincent and Francis. Their supply lines stretched like a dark web from the sun-drenched shores of South America, through Spain, and deep into the heart of the UK. Someone had just dared to steal from them. By 7:41 that same evening, Vincent Coggins was watching the grainy CCTV footage, pulled from a neighbor's system. For masked figures, a waiting van, and just like that, his precious stock had evaporated. A primal rage consumed him. He confided in his closest associates that this attack was deeply personal, an unforgivable affront. No local crew, he seethed, would ever have the audacity to touch him. This, he declared, had to be an inside job, perpetrated by someone so arrogantly cocky they believed they could rob the Hayton firm and live to tell the tale. He demanded names, and he wanted them now. But the robbers, unknown to Coggins, were not from Liverpool. Jason and Craig Cox, 2 brothers from Salford, had allied with Richard Caswell, a cunning, seasoned local criminal. The 4th man, Ben Monks Gorton, had played the part of the unsuspecting delivery driver, the perfect decoy. Coggins, at this critical juncture, knew none of this. The actual perpetrators were already busy offloading their ill-gotten gains, while the Hayton firm, blinded by fury, was about to go hunting for the wrong man. Vincent Coggins, a man who lived by an uncompromising code of retribution, wasted no time. Within hours, his fingers were flying across his encrypted EncroChat device, operating under the chilling handle moonlit boat. His tone, while outwardly measured, concealed words that were nothing short of lethal. He dispatched urgent messages to his trusted lieutenants, Paul Woodford, Robert Jarvis, and Michael Earl, instructing them to begin digging. If they failed to unearth the true culprits, he vowed, they would systematically burn down every rumor, every whisper, until someone, anyone, confessed. Initially, a few names surfaced: Kenny Glenn, the son of the Stash House victim, then Paul Flynn. Then, a perplexing silence. Out of nowhere, Coggins's focus inexplicably shifted, fixating on another local dealer, Brian Maxwell Jr. There was no apparent link, no discernible motive, no physical presence at the scene of the robbery to connect him. Yet, Maxwell Jr. was not entirely unknown. He was young, calculated, always operating in the close orbit of his father, conducting his business with a discreet efficiency that Coggins, in his vengeful state, found suspicious enough. He returned to EncroChat, unleashing a torrent of messages laced with escalating violence. He claimed he had Maxwell Jr. nailed, making it chillingly clear that the stolen money no longer mattered. What he wanted now, above all else, was blood. When Woodford tentatively inquired if weapons would be necessary, Coggins's response was swift and chilling: he had already stocked up. They were ready, he confirmed, armed and waiting. He then requested a pineapple, street code for a hand grenade. Jarvis promptly confirmed one could be sourced. The firm was no longer merely speculating, they were actively arming themselves for a fatal confrontation. The emergent plan was disturbingly simple: locate Maxwell Jr., strike swiftly, and make a brutal example of him. Brian Maxwell Sr., while not a figure known to the general public, commanded a quiet, deep respect within the intricate tapestry of the drug world. He was a silent operator, a stark contrast to the volatile chaos that often surrounded men like Coggins. He ran no crew, courted no overt drama, but instead managed a sophisticated network of properties, dozens of them. These houses, acquired discreetly and cheaply, were meticulously rented out, each one covertly fitted for large-scale cannabis cultivation. Lights were set on timers, lawns were professionally mowed weekly, and gardeners were even paid to plant hanging baskets outside, all to maintain the illusion of ordinary, lived-in homes. Inside, however, lay a different world entirely. Upstairs floors were stripped bare, walls packed with grow tents, and heat lamps carefully shielded to avoid detection. Downstairs, only essential furnishings remained, maintaining the facade. Every single detail was accounted for, right down to strategically parked, seemingly empty cars in driveways. It wasn't showy, but it was incredibly efficient, and it paid handsomely. His son, Brian Maxwell Jr., had grown up immersed in this clandestine world, understanding its nuances, and by 2020, the two worked seamlessly together. They quietly managed supply, moved product, and communicated either face-to-face or through highly encrypted devices. But then, a terrifying shift occurred. When Maxwell Sr. first heard his son's name whispered in connection with the £1 million stash robbery, a robbery he knew his boy hadn't touched, something profound changed within him. He immediately demanded proof from his son. Maxwell Jr. had it, time-stamped CCTV footage unequivocally showing he had not left the house on the day of the robbery. The evidence was irrefutable. Yet, the chilling whispers, the very real threat, refused to dissipate. Coggins, entrenched in his conviction, simply didn't care about the truth. The name had already embedded itself in his firm's vengeful minds. Now, a very real price hung over his son's head. Brian Maxwell Sr., faced with this horrific reality, made a decision. He understood how men like Coggins operated. A deal, however painful, could be brokered if the price was steep enough. He instructed his son to remain hidden, vanishing from sight, and initiated negotiations through a trusted mutual associate. His offer was stark, yet simple: land, a house, and a significant sum of cash, amounting to over £1.3 million, all in exchange for his son's life. He wasn't seeking forgiveness, nor was he attempting to settle a score. He was simply trying to keep his son breathing. The desperate proposal reached Vincent Coggins through the intermediary. Brian Maxwell Sr., through his message, conveyed his absolute certainty that his son had not robbed the stash house and that he possessed irrefutable footage to prove it. However, he also acknowledged the grim reality that truth no longer held any sway. He implored the Hayton firm to accept his offering as payment in full, a complete exoneration. From that moment forward, he declared, he would carry the blame himself. On paper, at least, Coggins agreed. The handover proceeded, titles were transferred, and the significant sum of money changed hands. On the 3rd of June, 2020, the extraordinary transaction was completed. Yet, behind this facade of resolution, Coggins continued to vent his unbridled rage across EncroChat. He confided in his inner circle that while he had accepted the deal, absolutely nothing had truly changed. Maxwell Jr. remained marked for death. He would simply bide his time, particularly with law enforcement actively monitoring. In one chilling message, he stated that the father could be left alone for now. But his insidious plan was clear: to return when public scrutiny cooled and finish what had been started. Maxwell Jr., blissfully unaware of the enduring, deadly threat, remained in hiding. His father, Brian Maxwell Sr., still clinging to the belief that he had purchased peace, maintained a stoic silence, never once attempting to recover the astronomical sum he had paid. Yet, the unforgiving streets continued their relentless churn. In the background, the intricate machinery of vengeance kept turning. For in the Hayton firm's brutal world, a financial debt could, perhaps, be settled. But disrespect, whether real or imagined, demanded only one currency: punishment. So far, we have witnessed the unbridled fury, the chilling threats, and the desperate deal that, by all logical accounts, should have brought an end to the escalating violence. But to truly grasp why the deal was always destined to be broken, why it could never truly hold, we need to delve deeper. We need to understand who the Coggins brothers truly were. They were not merely angry men, they were the meticulous architects of one of the most violent and rigidly structured crime groups Merseyside had ever witnessed. Long before the audacity of the robbery, before the colossal payout, and before the monumental collapse of the EncroChat network, the Hayton firm had already solidified its place near the very pinnacle of the criminal underworld. Their story began on the bleak Canroll Farm estate in Merseyside, a landscape scarred and gutted by the collapse of industry, a place where poverty festered. In that desolate vacuum, something else took root and began to flourish. The Coggins brothers, Vincent and Francis, learned a brutal truth early in their lives. True power didn't emanate from status or influence, it was forged in the crucible of fear. Over the next 3 decades, they painstakingly constructed an empire built on that chilling principle. At its zenith, the Hayton firm commanded a nationwide network, a sophisticated and brutal operation. Cocaine and heroin flowed seamlessly from the vibrant streets of Spain into the docks of Liverpool, then cascaded north to Scotland and down as far as Plymouth. Messages intercepted on EncroChat, a testament to their vast reach, revealed deals involving over 140 kilograms of cocaine and nearly 250 kilograms of heroin in a mere 3 months. The true figures, it was widely believed, were likely even higher. Yet, the drugs, immense as the profits were, represented only the surface of their operation. What truly bound the firm together, what ensured its ruthless efficiency, was violence. There were men on salary, paid specifically to inflict damage. One of them, Thomas Cashman, would later be shockingly convicted of killing 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbel. Others served as enforcers, couriers, and handlers, all meticulously kept in line by an unyielding chain of command that led directly back to the brothers. Vincent Coggins orchestrated the operations within Merseyside, while Francis, believed to be directing from the sun-drenched Costa del Sol, oversaw their extensive European logistics. Their inner circle included Paul Woodford, a man with a dark past linked to previous shootings, and Robert Jarvis, a long-standing fixer with a network of international contacts. The brothers operated with layers of protection, rarely seen, never careless. When they did communicate, it was exclusively through encrypted handles: Moonlit Boat, Soft Herb, King Wasp. Ironically, personal photos, telltale location tags, and even casual digital footprints would later serve to unmask them. To their rivals, they seemed untouchable. To their own people, they were profoundly feared. But like all long-standing syndicates, it wasn't paranoia that ultimately brought them crashing down. It was, rather, their overwhelming confidence. The unshakable belief that no one was truly watching, and that their chosen phone network, EncroChat, was utterly unbreakable. In early April 2020, a seismic shift occurred, though few in the criminal underworld noticed. French and Dutch authorities, working with incredible stealth, quietly infiltrated and hacked into the supposedly impenetrable EncroChat network. Without alerting any of its unsuspecting users, they began to copy messages in real time, including thousands upon thousands sent by the Coggins brothers and their entire crew. That invaluable intelligence, a digital goldmine, was swiftly passed directly to the UK's National Crime Agency and the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit. From that precise moment, everything irrevocably changed. Over 72,000 messages were meticulously gathered, forming the foundation of what became known as Operation Sub-Zero. Every chilling threat, every clandestine deal, every meticulously planned operation was now laid bare. The NCA did not simply sit on this mountain of data. They moved with methodical precision, each message matched with critical metadata, locations, timestamps, even seemingly innocuous background photos. Handles like Moonlit Boat, Soft Herb, Olive Scooter, and Blade Hedge were slowly, painstakingly, tied to real identities. Often, the crew inadvertently made it easy for investigators, joking about food, swapping personal photos, and conversing far too casually about their daily lives. What had begun as a traditional surveillance operation had transformed into a live intelligence feed, a window directly into the dark heart of the Hayton firm. As the firm continued their ruthless plotting, planning hits and moving product, the police were quietly, diligently, building irrefutable cases. Threats against Brian Maxwell Jr. and two others, Michael Ees and Ayabosa Igbenovia, were tracked in real time, escalating from words to tangible, deadly intent. By late May 2020, the threat wasn't just a matter of words. The plan, detectives realized, was terrifyingly real. Inside the Northwest Regional Organized Crime Unit, detectives faced a harrowing decision. This couldn't wait for a conventional arrest phase, not if innocent lives were on the line. Not if someone was truly about to be killed. So, they moved first. On the 27th of May, 2020, police officers converged on Maxwell Jr.'s home. He was served with an Osman warning, an official document chillingly informing him that his life was in imminent danger. Officers issued the same urgent warnings to the two other individuals Coggins had explicitly named as targets. Then came the other, equally critical, half of their strategy. Coggins, Woodford, Earl, and Jarvis were all served with disruption notices, formal warnings from law enforcement making it unequivocally clear that they were under intense scrutiny, and any further action would result in immediate apprehension. It was a calculated move, designed to stall the murderous plot. And for a fleeting moment, it worked. Michael Earl, visibly unnerved by the escalating pressure and the sudden visibility of law enforcement, appeared to back off. But Vincent Coggins, ever defiant, was not done. Behind the scenes, officers relentlessly ramped up their surveillance. Their ultimate goal wasn't merely to disrupt, it was to complete the intricate tapestry of their case, ensuring a solid prosecution. As the firm, still operating in the shadows, attempted to outwit the increasingly aware police presence, the investigation moved inexorably into its final, decisive phase. The arrests were coming. They just had to happen before someone paid the ultimate price. For weeks, the Hayton firm had been relentlessly hunting the wrong men, fueled by misinformation and blind rage. Meanwhile, the actual individuals responsible for stealing the drugs were long gone, a significant twist in this unfolding narrative. As we discussed earlier, the key figures in the audacious robbery were Jason and Craig Cox, alongside Richard Caswell. It was Caswell, a cunning operator, who had fed the Hayton firm false leads, expertly pretending he had no knowledge of the perpetrators, claiming he was actively working to uncover the truth. In reality, he was meticulously relaying the firm's escalating fears and strategies back to the Cox brothers, keeping them one crucial step ahead of any potential retaliation. For a time, his deception proved remarkably effective. But then, the EncroChat data, the silent betrayer, came through. Caswell's own messages, captured by Operation Vanish, unequivocally revealed his integral role in orchestrating the robbery. Police confirmed extensive contact between him and the Cox brothers both before and after the audacious hit. He was no mere bystander. He was the inside man, the orchestrator. That damning evidence, once disseminated, spread rapidly through various criminal circles. In a brutal act of street justice, Caswell, already arrested in an unrelated case, was viciously attacked inside prison, slashed across the face in a violent retribution. The Cox family was subsequently issued official threat-to-life warnings. Arson attacks targeted properties in Salford, clear signals of escalating underworld fury. Jason and Craig Cox, facing the full force of this retaliation, both fled the country to Spain. By the time Vincent Coggins finally grasped the agonizing truth, the damage had been done. The firm's focus, once solely on revenge, now shifted desperately to sheer survival. The case against the Hayton firm was now meticulously built and ready. Every single message, every incriminating photo, every explicit order had been traced, stored, and cross-referenced. It presented a comprehensive blueprint of how the notorious Hayton firm operated, a damning exposé. The large-scale takedown operation was set in motion under the code name Operation Sub-Zero, forming the Northwest Regional Organized Crime Unit's critical part of the wider EncroChat response. At precisely 6 a.m. on the 16th of June, 2020, the first doors were breached. Coordinated, armed raids swept across Liverpool and Knowsley, leading to the arrests of Vincent Coggins, Robert Jarvis, Paul Woodford, and Michael Earl. In the days that followed, Paul Fitzsimmons, Kevin Rimmer, Dean Burrows, and Darren Teeney were also apprehended. In Amsterdam, after 2 years on the run, Paul Glenn was finally arrested and subsequently extradited back to the UK. Both Brian Maxwell Sr. and Jr. were also captured. The arrests were executed silently, without warning, and without a single headline initially. The once untouchable Hayton firm was systematically dismantled in real time. Over the next year, charges were filed, trials were scheduled, and guilty pleas came in relentless waves. The court meticulously heard how the firm had trafficked hundreds of kilograms of heroin and cocaine across the UK, chillingly used hand grenades as brutal bargaining tools, and planned cold-blooded executions over diminishing profits. More than 72,000 messages were exhaustively analyzed and definitively linked to real-world criminal activity, spanning from illegal property transfers to illicit weapons buys. It was the first time this sheer volume of EncroChat data had been rigorously tested in UK courts. The defense vehemently attempted to have it thrown out, but they failed. The judges, in a landmark ruling, declared it admissible, setting a crucial precedent that would profoundly impact hundreds of other EncroChat cases across the entire country. The Coggins brothers, once perceived as untouchable, were now exposed as front-page criminals, one in custody, the other still at large abroad. The vast, intricate network they had painstakingly spent 3 decades building had collapsed entirely. It took over 3 grueling years to bring the entire case to its full and final conclusion. Dozens of individuals were arrested. Some fiercely fought the charges brought against them, while others, recognizing the overwhelming evidence, pleaded guilty early in the process. But once the EncroChat evidence withstood the rigorous scrutiny of the courts, the outcomes became inevitable. Vincent Coggins, aged 58, received a staggering 28-year sentence. The court heard in chilling detail how he had personally directed widespread violence and multi-kilo drug deals across the UK, all from behind the perceived anonymity of an encrypted screen. Robert Jarvis, 59, initially thought to be a mere enforcer, was unequivocally shown to be absolutely central to the gang's vast operations, receiving 25 years following a full trial. Paul Woodford, also 58, was handed a significant 24 years and 6 months. The evidence clearly demonstrated his readiness to source illegal firearms, arrange brutal attacks, and expertly handle bulk cocaine shipments. Michael Earl, 48, received 11 years. Alongside him, Paul Fitzsimmons, 60, was given 12 years and 6 months, while Darren Taney, 46, received 12 years and 9 months. Kevin Rimmer and Dean Burrows received substantial sentences of 16 years and 14 years and 3 months, respectively. Paul Glenn, 59, the man who had managed the very stash house that was robbed, received 11 years and 2 months for conspiracy to supply cocaine, a full circle of consequences. The individuals responsible for the actual robbery, Jason Cox, Craig Cox, Richard Caswell, and Ben Monks Gorton, were brought to justice under Operation Jail, a distinct investigation led by Greater Manchester Police. Jason Cox received 14 years and 8 months. Craig Cox's sentence was reduced on appeal from 13 years and 6 months to 11 years. Caswell was handed 7 years. Monks Gorton received just under 7 years. Then came the Maxwells, their story a tragic testament to the costs of the criminal world. Brian Maxwell Sr., the father who had paid the astronomical ransom, was jailed for 13 years for conspiracy to supply cannabis. His son, Brian Maxwell Jr., was handed a heavy sentence of 18 years and 2 months, primarily for firearm offenses. The court revealed that while in hiding, fearing the hit was still coming, he had desperately sourced an AR-15 and an AK-47, sealing his own fate. The £1.36 million Maxwell Sr. had so desperately given to the firm was never returned. Now seized under the Proceeds of Crime Act, it may never be recovered. If you've followed this complex and gripping case all the way through, we genuinely want to hear what you think. Did the sentences handed down truly fit the gravity of these crimes? Was justice ultimately served, or do you believe some individuals might have gotten off lightly? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments section below. And if you want to delve deeper into more real UK true crime stories just like this one, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload, and leave us a like. There is always another case, another hidden truth, waiting to be uncovered.